Good afternoon. Glad to see all of you here today. I know all of you are probably proud as I am to see the rain coming. We was much needed there. Ms. Meekles, if we'd have a roll call, please.
Mr. Como.
Here.
Ms. May. Here. Mr. Beatty.
Here.
Mr. Hicks.
Here.
Mr. McCoy.
Here.
Mr. Graves.
Here.
Mr. Manley.
Here.
We'll invite you to stand for the pledge, led by Miss Sherry May, and we'll have Miss Ainsley Kohler from West Monroe High School who will present our prayer after the pledge.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we come to you in thanks for allowing us to gather here today. As we prepare for this meeting, I pray for peace, unity, wisdom, courage, strength, and guidance over every heart and mind in this room. May every topic of discussion be placed in your hands, and that your will be done in and throughout us. Lord, give us your insight in order for us to make and lead with integrity to make decisions that are right and good in accordance to your plan. May you bless us with the ability to seek you in everything that we do and say. We love you with all our hearts. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ainsley, for taking time from your summer vacation to come and lead us in prayer. We need approval of minutes from May 9th.
I so move we approve the minutes as presented.
Second. Do we have any cards, Mr. Manley?
No card today.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Any opposed likewise? And there are none. Need to approve the agenda.
I so move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? And we have none. Personnel report.
I think somebody had a card. They didn't know what to do with it.
I was going to address that in just a second. Personnel report. You or you?
I'll get it my last time. If you see the smile, it's there for a reason. So, we do have some new positions. I can tell you Mr. DeGuys has been doing nothing because he's not the personnel director now. But Mr. Thompson has been working extremely hard. And I kid saying that about Todd. He has been extremely busy also. Let me introduce you to our new principals, assistant principals, and coordinator of curriculum and instruction for math. Our new principal at Good Hope Middle School is Miss Amanda Green. Mandy, stand up. We want to see you. Mandy is coming from assistant principal at West Monroe High School to the principal position there. Congratulations. Our new principal at Ouachita Junior High is Mr. Darren Underwood. There, Darren. Congratulations, Darren. Our new assistant principal at Sterlington High School, Mr. Bucky Chandler. West Monroe High School assistant principal, Mr. Richie Grant. Congratulations, Richie. East Ouachita Middle assistant principal, Miss Kim Cormier. Congratulations, Kim. East Ouachita Middle assistant principal, Mr. Sam Jones. Congratulations. Riser Middle School assistant principal, Mr. Philip Allen. There's Philip. Get here late, Philip, you don't get a seat. Okay? Congratulations, man. Sterlington Elementary assistant principal, Miss Jennifer Hackler. Congratulations, Jennifer. And our coordinator of curriculum and instruction for math and the math team, Miss Maggie Acree. Congratulations to you, Maggie. So with that being said, we don't have near the number of positions that we are opening, but I do want to let you know these are the positions that will be opening effective today. Principal at Highland Elementary School, Ouachita Parish High School Assistant Principal, West Monroe High School Assistant Principal, and Richwood Middle School Assistant Principal. Those are the 4 that will be open today, and Mr. Geis will be naming these at the July meeting. Thank you, Mr. Como.
Thank you, Dr. Coker. As Reverend McCord alluded to a while ago, I know some of you are here today because you got information that we were going to vote to remove prayer from the school board meetings. That's not true. We're not here to, as you saw, we had prayer, and we will continue to have prayer until we're told otherwise.
Amen.
So prayer is not on the agenda. The agenda items are usually what we normally would discuss. We don't normally discuss anything that's not on the agenda. We'll make an exception today because you're here. If you have a group, and if one of you would like to speak your concerns or your opinions, whatever, you have 3 minutes if you want to appoint one person from your group to come up and speak.
Y'all don't mind, I'm putting down a group by myself.
Pretty good sized group.
I just want to say this, right now, and I know the job y'all do is hard. It's harder than my job because y'all have kids involved and I got potholes, okay? Potholes are not emotional. But in my community, support for you runs deep, very deep. And they don't mind what you have to do to fight this, the money you have to spend to fight it. What they do mind is not doing anything. So I'm just here to tell you, my part of the community supports you 100%.
Thank you.
And we appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for my 2 minutes.
Thank you. Any other groups? Okay.
Okay, when you get the encouragement of the Holy Spirit, you have to speak. You know, Jefferson wrote about the separation of church and state in 1802 to Danbury Baptist Association in Connecticut. You'll not find anything about separation of church and state in any federal document. It's not in the Constitution. It's not in the Declaration of Independence. It's not in the Bill of Rights. It's right here in that one letter. And his intent was that church, wait a minute, let me say it correctly. Not that church stay out of government, but that government stay out of the church.
Amen.
And we as Christians need to stand up, speak out, and take back the correct intent of what the separation of church and state actually means. And our end of the neighborhood supports y'all 100%. Keep praying.
Thank you.
I'm not part of a group. I'm a citizen of Monroe, Louisiana, Ouachita Parish, Reverend McCord's brother. And I'm not sure if what I'm going to say is appropriate, but in Ouachita Parish and Monroe City Schools, we haven't had any gun violence. You take prayer out of the schools, you may replace with gun violence.
Thank you. And I'm sure a lot of you could come up. I'll take one more. Are you in line? We'll take 2 more. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening to everyone. My name is Cliff Thomas. I'm part of the Education Committee for the Monroe Ouachita NAACP. We have our chairperson, Mr. Jesse Smith, Reverend Jesse Smith here, as well as our president, Reverend Ambrose Dozer. We are in total support of this, and I agree with Brother Campbell right here that whatever finances and resources you have to use to enforce this and maintain this, we know prayer is the foundation of all that we do as believers in Christ. So whatever you have to do to keep prayer alive, we just say we do it and we support you and the community supports you and we pray for your efforts in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for allowing me to speak here. I never in a million years would have thought that I would ever stand here and say the words that I'm about to say, but, you know, first time for everything. as a grandfather of 4 beautiful grandchildren, I never in a million years thought that I would ever hear, especially in our small town, the words, we're going to pray until somebody tells us not to. I thought that, I mean, again, I understand there are rules and there are things, but our culture and society is definitely in a spiritual battle. I mean, I see it every day. And in an area of life, schools is so important. And when you have boys using girls' bathrooms, girls using boys' bathrooms, and people trying to okay it, the idea that we're going to let prayer out of school when that's the only thing that can combat that is totally, just the possibility of it is disheartening. And as a grandfather, as somebody that loves my country, that loves that flag, and that loves that Constitution and what it stands for, I would hope that you men and women would fight that and fight all the evil that comes with it. I know for one, I will stand beside you, and I will proudly stand with that flag and that God, because we have never, ever, more than ever needed God in our society, in our culture, and especially in our schools. I hope you will all stand with this and fight to the death, if you will, because I know I will.
Thank you. I'll correct myself. I said that we would have prayer until they told us not to. We'll have it on the agenda until they tell us not to. We'll probably never take prayer out of the school systems. All right, moving on to the business items. Consider insurance renewal, Regina Mikus.
You have in your packet the insurance renewal quote for the upcoming 2023-2024 school year. I'm definitely not going to read all the detail to you, but I'll give you the summary. Basically, our property values went up as they do each year. We reassess all of our property values with that in mind. If you look on the second, midway through, it gives the total premium for the total package, and this is our liability coverage, our workers' comp excess premium coverage, our theft, our property, our auto. This is all of our insurance coverages. We saw a 12% increase. If you adjust for the increase in property values, that's about a 5% increase in premium, which we are extremely happy with. As you know, over the last several years, we have seen some significant increases in our insurance. So this tells us a lot. Coming from our carrier, nothing has changed, and only having that slight increase. So I would ask for your approval to continue this coverage as it's given for the upcoming year.
You look for a motion?
Right.
I was going to let them read over a little bit. I know this is the first time some of them probably have seen it, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of
And
nod
really,
your
all
head.
of the coverages are the same. There was one deductible that went up, and at the very bottom of the first page, the crime deductible went from $25,000 to $50,000, and that is in light of a claim that we had in the prior year. Hopefully, going forward, with no additional claims, that'll come back down in the future.
I will say, while they're reading over the proposal there, that I had the opportunity with Tommy to sit in on a meeting with Regina and Gallagher Associates, Kevin Wood and Associates, and we were well pleased with the proposals they presented, with only a 5% premium increase in lieu of the claim that we had at Boley, and the millions of dollars that were paid on that, and the way they've handled that professionally, and the way that they've come through for us in the past. I would highly encourage that we continue with the renewal that's been presented.
Yeah.
And I'll make that as a motion.
And I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of accepting this policy?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Then there are none. Thank you. Let's try a little stack here. Item number 2, receive annual comprehensive financial report for the year end June 30th, 2022. Ms. Margie Williams.
Okay, we have Margie Williamson and Tim Green with us today from Allen Green and Williamson to present the audit report for the year ended June 30th, 2022.
We went over the results of the audit yesterday with management, and we wanted to go ahead and go over the results of the audit since this is Dr. Coker's last board meeting. So I gave you a handout. The report probably will be submitted to the legislative auditor next week, and it takes a couple of weeks for them to approve it. Once it's approved, it'll be printed, and then you'll receive your printed copies of the reports. But the summary of auditors' results for the annual financial report on the first page, the independent auditor's report, we did issue an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements, which is the best opinion that you can get on your financials. And as far as the financial results, I have attached some summaries on pages 2 through 4. So if you turn to page 2, the one at the top is the government-wide statements, and those statements actually combine all funds together, and then we record the book value of capital assets, all debt, including any pension liabilities or OPEB liabilities. And that's all reported in those statements. Now, those entries are not made on your books because those statements are not on your budget basis. So I gave you just the major items off those statements. The other post-employment benefits liability, I gave you 4 years of information. And I went back to 2019 because that was the year before COVID. So that was kind of more the normal year. And then 20, 21, and 22. You can see that the other post-employment benefits liability has actually decreased over those 4 years. The net pension liability also has decreased. And when you look at those statements, when you get to the bottom to see the net position or the equity part of the statement, it's going to show a deficit. But that is because of recording the pension liability and the OPEB liability. And that is no different from almost every other school district in the state. They all have a negative net position because those liabilities are on those statements. The next one is the general fund is right below that. And I gave you the main revenues from the general fund. And you can see that the revenues from 2019 to 2022 went from $142.9 million to $148.5. And the ad valorem tax has increased over those 4 years. The all other revenue in the 2022 year, which is $5.7 million, that includes a federal grant that you received for the year. It was $3.7 million for Emergency Connectivity Fund, and that money was actually used to purchase Chromebooks. So you'll see that the all other revenue looks larger in 2022, and that's why. Also, the expenditures stayed, pretty flat until you get to 2022. That's because included in those expenditures is the $3.7 million purchase of the Chromebooks. And then below that is like your transfers that you make from the general fund or to the general fund. The first one is the transfer of indirect cost. And some federal programs actually pay the general fund a percentage of their expenditures as part of their indirect cost. It's to pay for administrative, bookkeeping, and those types of services. So if you look at the transfer of indirect cost from 2019 to 2022, you'll see that in 2019 and 2020, it was around 750,000. It started to increase in 2021, and in 2022, it was 3.3 million. And the reason for that increase is the education stabilization funds. You're getting more, you started receiving those funds in 2021, you got more in 2022, and those funds, ESSER funds, actually pay around 18% to the general fund for indirect cost. Now, other funds like Title I and Special Ed, their rate is around 7%. So the actual percentage that you're getting on indirect costs from those ESSER funds is a lot higher.
Which line is that in, Ms. Williamson? You said on the ESSER funds, is that the transfer in of the indirect
Transfer
cost?
in of indirect costs. And the ending fund balance, you can see for the general fund from 2019 to 2022. In 2019, it was 20.6. 2022, it's 22.3 is the ending fund balance. Now, of that fund balance in the general fund, some of that actually is committed or assigned or restricted for other purposes. But you have an amount that is unrestricted. It's unassigned for anything in particular. So I gave you that amount. For 2022, it's 17.4. And the percentage of expenditures is 12%. Total expenditures in the general fund. And
If the total expenditures from 17.4 is just 12%.
it's, yeah, the 17.4 is 12%.
12%.
Is 12%. So you have a policy that says that the unassigned fund balance should be between 10 and 15% of total expenditures. So for all 4 of those years, you were in that range. On the next page, on page 3, I have 2 of the sales tax funds. The District 1 sales tax, and that I showed you also from 2019 to 2022. The first line there is the sales tax in 2019. It was almost 7.5 million. In 2022, 9.7 million. So the sales tax has increased over those 4 years. Around 30% has been the increase. And then the increase for the year for 2022 for the District 1 sales tax is 3.9 million. And you had a beginning fund balance of 23.7, so your ending fund balance is 27.7 million. The next one is the West Ouachita sales tax. That one also, the sales tax has increased over the 4 years, and it's increased about 25% from 2019 to 2022. And that all other revenue on both of those sales taxes is actually interest. So you'll see that the interest has declined in both of those from 2019 to 2022. And your ending fund balance for the West Ouachita sales tax is 20.1 million. And then at the bottom of that page, I gave you total sales tax for all funds. So if you look at the sales tax from 2019 to 2022, there has been an overall increase of about 27% over that time period. On the next page, school food service. This one, I broke out the MFP. The food service is actually payments for meals. In 2019, it was payments for meals, snacks, teachers' lunches, whatever. But as you can see, as it went from 2019 to 2022, it's almost down to nothing in 2022 because in 21 and 22, all children ate free. So that's why the federal stayed between 7.5 and 8.5 million, but in 2022 it was 12.4 million. And the reason for that is that the participation increased in the 2022 year. So you also receive some one-time payments of emergency operational costs and supply chain assistance in 2022 that you didn't get in the other years.
With all those funds were dedicated to certain projects, right?
Yes, yes. All that has to be used in child nutrition.
In what way? Any, or they have restrictions on how it can be used within the guidelines of child nutrition?
It just has to be within the regulations of the program. So I think there's some that set aside for equipment reserve.
That's, you've answered my
Yes.
question. The reason I asked, well, I'll bring it up later because I asked for something at a school at Shady Road 3 years ago, and it still has not been, a piece of equipment, it still hasn't been done. And we have an additional $4 million in child nutrition, and that's equipment. Thank you.
There is a separate fund that is an equipment reserve. At the bottom of that page, I also gave you the federal revenue. If you look at 2019, 22.6 million, and if you look at 2022, it's 46.9 million. And that is, well, the child nutrition revenue has increased, but the biggest reason is the education stabilization. In 2021, you got 5.7 million. In 2022, you got 16.9 million. You will also receive that 3.7 million in the emergency connectivity fund.
That educational stabilization fund is ESSER.
Yes.
That's on page 2.
Three.
On page 2. Okay.
Page 4.
Okay, if you turn back to page 1, we do a financial and compliance audit. The compliance part of it is the single audit, and we audited 4 of the federal programs. We audited child nutrition, education stabilization, which is the ESSER, emergency connectivity fund, and Title II. And our opinion on those programs was unmodified, which is the best that you can get. We did have a few findings, Part 2 findings related to the financial statements. The report is being filed late with the legislative auditor. The OPEB study that we needed for the OPEB liability wasn't received until March of 2023, so it was after the deadline. The second one is inappropriate use of credit cards by one employee. This was detected by the business office, and in November of 2022, the sheriff's office, the district attorney, and the legislative auditor were all notified the day after it was discovered. The sheriff's office is actually doing an investigation, and it's an ongoing investigation, so really there's not much we can say about that until the investigation is complete. And then the last one is a federal compliance finding. In testing payroll, we noted that there were some disbursements that were lacking either the employee or supervisor approval in the Novatime system. Do y'all have any questions?
Go back on that part three findings again. I didn't understand that.
The Part 3 finding?
Yes, on the federal compliance.
Yes, we test some payroll disbursements from the programs that we test, and it's approved in the Novatime system by the employee and the supervisor. And there were some payments that we didn't get documentation of the actual approval in the system.
I
Any
think
other-
well noted too that, based on what Ms. Williamson said about the, unmodified opinion on the ESSER funds that we receive from the federal government, the way we've handled the distribution of those and the use of those and the way we've handled those to properly handle expenses in our district is to be commendable.
Yes.
And I think Dr. Coker and Clint probably need to be especially, congratulated and thanked for the good job y'all done in handling that large sum of money and dispersing it throughout the district in the appropriate manner. That's a lot of money to be handled, and appreciate the way we've done it.
Any other questions, comments? Have a motion to accept this report?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed likewise? We have none. Thank you. Let's see, item number 3, discussion of graduation venues. Greg Manley.
Thank you, Mr. Como. I wanted to bring before the board, and kind of look and discuss, have some open discussion. I'll let everybody get out that wants to get out before I start talking. You know, in the past several years, I was fortunate enough to get on the board in 1995, and of course I took a 10-year absence from the board and got back on in 14. And when I first started on the board, and the years prior to that, graduation ceremonies were always handled indoors. And of course, that was something that was a tradition for our school system, and it's a special time for our students. It's a special time for the parents and grandparents involved in that special recognition. I can still, as I was driving to the meeting today, I was thinking, I still remember in 1972 when I graduated from the Monroe Civic Center and went across the stage and received my diploma. My parents were there, my grandparents were there, several relatives were there. So it's a special occasion that I've always held to the highest esteem. And I think as a board, we have an obligation to provide a convenient, comfortable atmosphere for our graduation ceremonies. And we've gravitated away from that with the outside activities, and it's not the fault of our school system or our board. It's when COVID came along, and for a health reason, we had to seek outside venues for health reasons. But now COVID seems to have receded, and I think from my personal position as a board member, I think it's time for the board to address the issue and maybe have a policy to where we bring our graduation ceremonies back inside in a controlled environment. And it also eliminates the weather delay or cancellation of a graduation and all the things that's associated with that that we have no control over. So it's something I want to bring before the board on that. And it's going to be probably a two-phase approach to it. And I want to get everybody's opinion on this. I'm just sharing my thoughts on it. It's something I felt strongly about to bring before the board and see what your feelings were on the situation and what your thoughts were on the issue. The second thing is, since it is such a special time for our students, and we've been fortunate as a school system to have some sizable general fund money available. And Dabo has been nice enough to do some research on the cost of some of these venues. We've talked to Monroe Civic Center. We've talked to Ewing Coliseum, and I know Ewing Coliseum has accommodated a lot of our graduations in the past. And the Monroe Civic Center has accommodated some this year, West Monroe in particularly. And we've got some figures from them, and I want to kind of share I would like as a board to have a policy that the school board will finance and pay for the venue expenses associated with graduation. And Dabo has kind of run these figures for the Monroe Civic Center, and to have all 5 high schools go through the Monroe Civic Center, it would be $20,285. Now, the Monroe Civic Center has a total capacity of 7,500 students if you don't black out the backstage behind the stage. If you eliminate the area behind the stage, then you're looking at around about 5,500 students, okay? And I know there's been some concerns with West Monroe and the size we have at West Monroe High School, and I'm not here to try to force my concern on anybody. Okay, I want us to be comfortable, and every principal and the school system have an opportunity to evaluate their situation. But, you know, when I was crunching the numbers, and I don't know exactly what West Monroe, I'm sure 500 plus. Mr. Lane, what was y'all's graduation numbers this year? 450? Yeah, so just say 500 for a normal graduation year. And I know in the past I've been on the board, we've always used the Ewing Coliseum for West Monroe graduation. And if West Monroe won't fit, they won't fit, okay? But, you know, when I was looking at the numbers, theoretically, when you got 450, 500 students in a 7,500 seat arena, you're going to be looking at about 15 people per student. And that's not counting the student body that show up, okay? And I know that's an unknown figure that we don't know about. But I guess what I'm looking at is to bring before the board the possibility of adopting a policy to where we require our high schools to have an indoor venue and let the principals work on those indoor venues and see what accommodates their size and so forth. And if for some reason West Monroe can't fit into the biggest venue we have in Ouachita Parish, then they have an opportunity to go outside if they so choose. But I would like to have a policy that the board adopt concerning moving the graduation ceremonies inside, and also that the school board pay for the expenses involved in the venue only to cover that expense for the high schools and remove that from them. So I want to open that up for discussion and get everybody's feelings on it before I make a formal motion.
Well, I got something I'd like to say. I'd like Ms. Coffin to come up and help me if you don't mind. I want to go over this cost for y'all a little bit so y'all know exactly what you're paying for. I know last year West Monroe said they had a little problem getting out, but Mr. Coffin said she's going to stop at the Monroe City cops going to block the roads, do away with the red lights. When it's over with, y'all better just leave. There won't be no problem getting in and out. You want to go over this a little bit? Yeah, man.
Sure. So Amy Keifenheim, Director of the Monroe Civic Center. So I did put this estimate together. For those of you that were at West Monroe's graduation, a little background on that one. That was a 48-hour put together around an event we already had booked and was set. And so we had to make some accommodations for that other event to be able to host West Monroe's. So we weren't really set to full capacity for West Monroe's graduation because of the event that was taking place the day immediately following. So Mr. Manley's numbers are accurate. There was a big curtain that was raised for that event on Friday that did take away some of the seating that would not be there for this setup. So this setup and this proposal is to block the entire week of the Civic Center. So each school would have their own designated day where they could come in and rehearse that morning and then have their graduation that evening. We would be set to capacity. This estimate also includes police support, Monroe Police Department, who knows the Civic Center backwards and forwards, and they also have control of the traffic going in and out for those evenings. Also, if we were to block this, we could also mitigate to what else is taking place in my other venues. So my conference hall, my convention center, the theater is booked for that week right now is Linda Lavender's recitals. But I've already actually started some discussions on maybe we could adjust their schedule as well. That's not certain in stone or anything. But this does include stage setup. It includes stage hands for every event. So it also includes screens. So when the schools want to show PowerPoints or things like that, they can customize their graduation as they do today with the technology that's available to the Civic Center. But this is an all-inclusive package. It is a little discounted because once we do get it set up for day one, we don't have to do much tweaking. I would love to work with each school, though, because, of course, the number of valedictorians changes, the number of students graduating does change. But at full capacity, when we put chairs on the floor completely, and as well as taking that back curtain down, I have no doubt that we would definitely have a better experience in being able to accommodate close to 7,000 people.
Rick, have you talked to any of the principals of West
Did
Monroe
Mr.
High
Lane
School?
call you this week?
We were texting about if Miss Linda Lavender's if her recital was still that week, and yes, it is. But like I said, I've already kind of warm touch with Linda Linda Lou on if we could talk about their schedule for certain nights. We had the parking capacity because I can advise too that some people just parked wherever they stopped. We did have to have a few cars towed the night of West Monroe's graduation because they were blocking many people from getting out. So having it and being prepared, we would be able to mark off as well or open up actually extra exits because we do have extra roads leading out of the Civic Center that we don't necessarily keep open 100% of the time.
But to answer your question, I called Mr. Lane the other day and we discussed this, and we both agree that we do need a venue to be available in case of bad weather. But in talking with Mr. Lane and his staff and the students, they enjoy being outside at the stadium for graduation. So we don't want to take that privilege away. If that class votes to, and the system votes to go with them, we want them to still be able to meet outside in the stadium. We talked about maybe moving it back a little later. Sun wouldn't be as bright on the on the home side. It would be in shade. I don't mind sitting out there for the hour and a half in the sunshine. Don't have to wear a suit. You can wear a West Monroe shirt and a pair of blue jeans and going out and be happy. So got plenty of parking, plenty of space. We get here quickly. We go home quickly. No issues. But as far as the policy of having a venue available, I agree. And I agree that the school board should pay for it.
Exactly. And having been a former high school principal, is that I hate to see that decision for each high school removed from the principal. And I know we have a couple of high school principals with us, and I think, or I know, I like West Monroe High School, that needs to be their decision. I'm speaking for West Monroe High School, and then we have Sterlington, we have West Ouachita.
I would like to say that
But I agree with, excuse me, but I agree with what you've said as far as having the venue and the school board picking up the cost, because that's a burden on the individual schools when they have to pick up those costs. And it's a lot of money. I'm sorry, Mr. Hicks, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, we got a lot of principals, and we have some right here now, and I'd like to get, the word from them that what they would like to do, because it's their graduation also. But I have had nothing but praise for having it at West Monroe High School. I mean, everybody that was happy because it's been a lot of room, no problem parking, and so that was what I've been hearing. So does any of the principals want to say something about that?
Good.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Miss Amy, for that 48-hour call and accommodation to us. That was
She didn't say she is
on-site.
a West Monroe graduate too,
Yes, yes, she loves us.
She is.
And
Yes, she is.
State
Keeping-
champion basketball.
That's right. And the Kiefenheims are dear to our heart and part of our lore and legend. And very much thank you, because we had no idea what we were going to do 24 hours out with that much rain coming, and you saved us. So thank you very much to Monroe City, and please convey that to Friday and everybody there. Rebel Stadium, Don Chow's Field, is a magical place to our students, and that's their last great memory, is being on that field and walking out there as so many teams and clubs and organizations do. And that's very special to them. And yes, COVID brought us to do it at the stadium, and it's magical. They don't want to give that up. In our mind, what we went through those 24 hours before we had to call the graduation and go indoors, Mr. Manley, was, how hot is it going to be and how wet is it going to be? And, those are some trigger points in my mind. Is it more than 40% chance of rain? Is it 83 degrees? And what time is it going to be 83 degrees? And I think those are some guidelines that we do need. I do think the principals need some kind of trigger point decision-making guidelines, because if it's over 83 degrees and we've got 8,000 or 9,000 people in the stands, then we have, emergency responder concerns and people, grandmas and grandpas, and the compromised health concerns there, because you are outdoors. And events of that scale for us are a challenge even on Friday night. Even students with disabilities that can't stand the heat. So I think there are some guidelines. I think there needs to be some trip points where, weather and temperature, that may be a concern, that every principal needs to consider that, because I know we did. But I appreciate that, because we want to be dry and comfortable. The Monroe Civic Center, having been at UM for years, traffic was better to get out of there than any place, and I think they already had a recital going on. So traffic, I agree with Mr. Dabo's research that it was definitely a better venue. So I appreciate your perspective, and we're just thankful we were able to pull it off. But we do want to stay in the stadium if all things are to our favor. Thank you.
Any other principals want to speak?
Let me just say that I want to thank my colleagues, Greg and Dabo, for the research that they've done. I think it's really good information, and I think that the fact that we are discussing it and taking under deliberation is a really good thing. Not to have a closed mind, but an open mind. I shared as well. I want to thank Ms. Amy and the Monroe Civic Center for being there for that last moment. I've only been to 2 of West Monroe's graduations. The first one I went to, it was outside. I thought it was divine. I really did. I thought it was divine. But however, last May, when you all provided an indoor venue for them at the last moment, and I must say that even though it was the last moment, it was good. So we thank you all for that. I think that there are some pluses and some minuses on both sides. I think that the pluses are more concrete than the minuses, because the pluses is the fact that, yes, we are indoors, we are secure from inclement weather, we are protected from possible snipers or crazy people nowadays. Also, having the Monroe City Police there was a good thing, because they were accommodating. I'm always running late, but I was able to get right into the Civic Center. And I'm one of those persons who parked in the wrong spot. Thank you all for not towing my car. I made a parking space, and about 20 other people followed right behind me. However, I am concerned too that the flexibility that the principals have currently allows them to cater to the sentiments of parents, students, and others who like the idea of choosing their venue, choosing the place that they're going to have their graduation. So I guess I'm torn between two. Now, I want to say that for me, I have not had a chance to speak to Dr. Sherilyn Locke, who is the principal at Richwood High School, one of the primary schools that I represent. I don't know how, because right now, currently, we have our graduation indoors anyway at ULM. And I know her, she's a money miser. She's like Don Coker. Did I say that?
I heard it.
And if she can save
$3 or $4 out of her school fund, I think she's probably going to support that. But I don't want to be premature. I don't want to get ahead of myself because we have a great working relationship thus far. And I don't think she does very many things without me knowing, and I don't want to do anything without her knowing it. I appreciate again, Brother Greg and Brother Dabo. And like I said, I'm not against one or the other. I just want to make sure that.
I think the fact that Ms. Locke has been indoors for the last several years on her graduation ceremonies when she's had the opportunity to go outside speaks volumes as to what her opinion is.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't see how that would change, based on the actual action that Ms. Locke has taken.
Right. I told my wife Eleanor this morning, she said she left and she didn't say bye. And she said, because I thought you were praying. I said, I already told you, no, never think no. And so I'm not going to think what she would feel. I'm going to ask her. And I think that given just a few days to do that, because again, but it's admirable that we're having this discussion. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Board, for even taking time to talk about this. I'm the principal at West Ouachita. And one thing, Mr. McCoy, you forgot to mention was the air conditioner when we have a graduation inside. And I'm all about the air conditioner, being up there in the suit, having the graduates in their cap and gown, plus what they have on underneath.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just a personal preference of mine. If we can be inside, I'm not going to say I don't care how much it costs, but I'm all about being inside for graduation for a lot of the reasons that you said, and just the unknown with the elements. So whatever this board decides, I'm in 100%. Just thank y'all for even taking time to consider it. And if you definitely want to pick up the tab, I'm really all in.
I knew that. Those principals. Picking up the tab.
I got one more thing to say.
Go inside.
I've been on this board 5 years and I got rained on twice. So it's gonna rain sometime or another. It's gonna, good years and bad years. The second thing is, I'd like Mr. Guys to get somebody together and get on this as quick as he can, because Amy's got to know something in the next 5 to 10 days. She's got a book at Civic Center and she's got people wanting it now, and she's blacked it out for us. So we can't drag this out 30 days. So if somebody could contact the principals this week and let's get together and figure out what we're gonna do, it would help her a lot, because she can't keep it open for us forever.
Well, let me say this too, and I'm all for principal input and principals give us some guidance on this decision, but I think ultimately the board is responsible for decisions on this. Ultimately, back whenever it was decided years ago, the board made that decision. Okay, and I feel like the general public, when they have a concern, they call board members. And I got a few calls this year on the rain concerns at Ouachita High School. They both did too. And, when you go inside, you eliminate that issue. You're in a comfortable environment with air conditioning. You eliminate the weather concerns that posed West Monroe this year, having to scramble around trying to find a place. And, it worked 1995 to COVID. We had no issues going indoors. And all of a sudden now, we've got some issues going indoors. So I guess that's my thought pattern on it. We made a decision in the past that we're going to have indoors. COVID brought us outside. Now we're kind of undecided as to what's best for our graduation ceremonies. And whenever you look at the overall plus and minuses, as Harold said, I think the pluses outweigh the minuses to have it inside. That's my personal opinion on it.
I just like the idea, though, of each high school principal being contacted and getting their input.
And I don't, as a board member, I don't have a problem in us having policies. I said in my very beginning, we adopt a policy that all high schools have their graduation ceremonies indoors. And if for some reason, capacity, we can't accommodate West Monroe High School, then yes, West Monroe has that opportunity to make that decision to go outside. If it's a crowded, overcrowded situation and capacity situation, without each principal having to make a decision, well, let's go inside and let's stay outside this year. So that's my personal opinion on the issue.
Personally, I'd rather have a policy to provide a venue and still leave the option to the schools for their choice. So having a venue is great. Whether we use the venue or not, that's left up to the principal. If West Ouachita wants to stay inside, stay inside. If we want to go outside, go outside.
Now, if we have a policy and
not to require them to use it, just to provide.
Right. But see, the way it's calculated here, I mean, I guess the cost would be the same.
I was gonna bring that up.
And you gotta have a
So you-
place to go, so they
If
still
five
get their
schools
money.
use it, it's $4,000 per school.
Mhm.
If 4 schools use it, it's gonna go to $5,000 per school. Now, we wanna go ahead and pay that extra $4,000 for 5 schools in case West Monroe gets rained out. They have, cause if you don't, she ain't gonna have a nice safe farm.
Right, that's what you do.
So I just
Pay for all
book it
5
for the whole week and pay the 20,000. And if West Monroe needs it, they got it. If they don't, they have it in their field.
That's more.
So if everybody comfortable, I'll make a motion regarding just kind of what Dabo summarized, that as a board, we adopt a policy that all graduation venues come indoors and have the facility paid for by Ouachita Parish School Board for the venue itself. And then if the principal, for some reason, from a capacity standpoint, does not feel that it's enough room from a facility standpoint, that they have the option. At this point in time, I think the only high school that would be fall in those categories would be West Monroe High School. Then they have an opportunity to make that decision. And I would like for the principal, Mr. Lane, when he makes that decision, make that in conjunction with consultation with the superintendent, so that the superintendent has some input in the decision also, and possibly board members involved
Yeah,
with their particular area.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm all in favor of school principals having decision-making authority at school. I'm not against that, but at the same time, I think sooner or later the board has to have a policy that we think is in the best interest of our school students, parents, grandparents, and all. And for years, indoor facilities has always accommodated that situation.
Right. Well, the reason I brought up about the high school principal having the input is because typically the high school principal consults with and goes to the senior class. So the senior class feel like they have an input into the graduation. So that's the reason I brought that up still.
Again, I appreciate being a part of the discussion, and I think that it's an admirable idea.
Yeah.
But I still would feel, since the next graduations are in May of next year, I'm still gonna feel comfortable being allowed the opportunity to speak with my principal. And that's what I forestated, and I know other people are firm about what they want to do, but I'm firm about what I don't want to do until I don't want to rush to judgment.
Right.
Not that it's not a good thing to do, because I thought it was a great thing to buy my last new car. My wife didn't know about it.
But this gives a security blanket, more or
Yes,
less.
ma'am.
You know what I'm
It
saying?
does. It does.
And for the and like I said, it's a sweet
It
thing
does.
for the board to pick up the cost for each of the high schools. That's certainly a plus.
Well, I'm
And
like,
then-
man, I'd like to go ahead and
Got it.
let's make a motion. Let's accept this policy. Let's set it up for 5 schools. If they want it, they use it. If they don't, they don't. But we need to do it now so we can book it, or we're gonna lose it. We can't wait a month now and book this thing.
Is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion, a second, all in favor?
I want to make sure I'm understanding the motion now. Let's clarify the motion.
Motion is,
Okay? I want,
It'd have to be a substitute motion.
yeah, I had a motion already on the table.
okay, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
My motion was, I'm trying to be specific here so there's no misunderstanding of what we vote on. My motion was that the board adopt a policy that requires graduation venues to be indoors. Okay, that's our policy. But the principal has a discretion at their school due to size requirements of their graduating class, and there being no facility available to accommodate the size of their class and the group that they're anticipated being there, to be in consultation with the superintendent and seek venues elsewhere, such as West Monroe Football Stadium. That's my motion.
So that would be, so they'd have the option of
Yeah.
being outside if they want to.
Yeah.
But, you know, that way, and like we've been talking about, we have to secure the venue.
Exactly. And I think that's a great thing. I personally, I do. And I think it would be something good for each of the high schools, you know, but it still leaves them that option.
Mr. Mann, part of that is we pick up the tab, right?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
we pick up the tab based on what, Miss Amy has already said. Ballpark figure, we're looking at $20,000 for 5 high schools next year.
Right.
That we will already have secured the facility for. There won't be any questions about it. And if West Monroe so chooses to go outside, that's their decision with consultation with the superintendent and possibly board members at the same time.
Yeah, just one point of clarity on that too, Greg. Remember, on Monday night, we have 2 graduations at 2 separate venues. So it's actually 4 high schools that would be using the Monroe Civic Center if Sterlington maintains
Well, that was
what
going
they've
to be
been
my
doing.
point too. Your motion did not say Monroe City Civic Center. Are we locking into that?
Yes.
I mean, because not all of our high schools have traditionally used that.
Well,
Ms. Johnson doesn't use that.
I know Ms. Johnson, I'm leaning toward North Monroe Baptist Church as their facility. They've used it for years. It's accommodated our.
I know Dr. Locke has been happy with ULM when she's done it inside, so I
think we probably
want
need
to
to
be clear.
modify it then and say, hey, look, it's gonna, let me rephrase I'm trying to massage this thing to where it makes sense and also meets people's needs and not harm anybody going forward, but at the same time, we know what the policy is, okay? So let me restate it one more time and accommodating the situation. I would recommend that Ouachita Parish School Board adopt a policy that requires all graduation ceremonies be held indoors, okay? At the site of the principal's choosing, okay? If they want North Monroe Baptist Church, they want Monroe Civic Center through Amy, they want ULM, okay? Then the principal will work with those 2 facilities and we will pay as a board the appropriate amount for that particular venue, whatever that charge is for that venue to accommodate that graduation being indoors. Whether it be ULM for Richwood, North Monroe Baptist Church for Sterlington, Monroe Civic Center for West Monroe High School, and so forth, so.
Right. Let me just run this by you.
So,
I think the object was to get them all at Monroe Civic Center because of the cows.
Well, they both worked it up so we would know tentatively what the expense would be.
Right. So, what if they just, if we say we're gonna just pay for Monroe Civic Center, and they choose to go somewhere else, then they pay for it.
I think we're gonna pay for where they shall be. ULM,
I
Monroe
think
Civic
take it to a
Center.
policy committee
That's your-
with the understanding of what y'all want.
That's your motion, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Do we
I can
want
live
to?
with that. Yeah, I'm fine.
So
know-
does everybody understand my motion?
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
I do. So, but see, once again, this is why you wanted to consult with each high school principal because Dr. Locke, she always likes ULM.
But his motion just included that.
Okay, so, but
His
I
motion-
guess my point being, we're paying the Civic Center for basically all.
No. We're backing off the Civic Center as as our number 1 facility. We're letting the principals make the decision
Okay,
of what facility they want to use.
yeah,
Okay, and the school board will pay
Oh.
the venue
Yeah.
for that facility.
yeah,
And the only facility that accommodate West Monroe would be the Monroe Civic Center.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
All right, we have his motion. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? Likewise, none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave-O.
Thank you.
Who?
That was a long one.
I'm called that.
It was simple.
I'm glad we was able to compromise on that issue.
What you?
Item number 4.
What you say? Oh.
If that didn't wear you out, you ought to be, so if you want to leave, go ahead.
When we said pay, that's how Rusty lighted like.
All right, item number 4, consideration approval of a happy holiday, July 3rd holiday extension for 12-month employees. Dr. Coker.
If this one goes that long, I'll just withdraw this proposal. No. We have had a lot of our principals contact us. These are 12-month employees. And with the 4th of July falling on a Tuesday, and we do extended work hours Monday through Thursday, and our employees are off on Friday, I would request the board to grant that Monday because it's going to be a skeletal crew, and my fear is there's not going to be people in the schools to keep the schools open for that Monday before the Tuesday, 4th of July holiday.
Absolutely.
So I would just request that y'all alter the calendar and include the 12-month employees. That's all that it would affect for the July 3rd date off.
Question. Do you think the employees would be in favor of that?
You might.
Well, you can ask them. There are several sitting in here.
I so move.
I second.
All right, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
And there are none opposing.
Thank you, board, for your expediting that.
Take on now.
All right, item number 5, discussion of renovation of bathrooms at Shady Grove Elementary. Mr. Harold McCoy.
Yes, thank you. This is something that I brought to the superintendent's attention a couple of years ago, and Stephen at the time. At Shady Grove, that's just my opinion, of course, everybody's eyes don't see the same thing. That there are a couple of bathrooms down there, maybe 2 or 3 that I don't think that's up to par. I think that some of the material that was used the last time, whoever renovated them or attempted to renovate them, the material that was used is inferior. It's it's high maintenance material. It's susceptible to handprints and so forth. And then there are places where baseboards are missing. There are some trash cans installed in the walls with hand towels that are outdated, looks filthy. It's nasty, and I know it was stated that it needs some tender love and care, a little cleaning, but in my opinion, it wouldn't be sufficient for me, not at my house, not at the church where I pastor, and in some of the other places that I've been to, other schools that I've gone to, they would not be acceptable. Having been told that it's expensive to renovate bathrooms. Perhaps, I don't know. I know we did some in West Ouachita that was really, really expensive. I'm not asking for that kind of renovation. I'm not asking for that kind of money to be spent. But what I am asking for those bathrooms to receive the attention that they deserve. And because it doesn't matter where the kids go to school. It doesn't matter whether they're in Monroe City or they're in Ouachita Parish or wherever they are. They deserve better. They deserve better. And I know this is Ouachita Parish. And now one thing about Ouachita Parish that I've always admired, Ouachita Parish likes the best. And so I've asked the president at some point in time, to just go take a look. I've asked, I went with Mr. Geis, and of course, he shared it with me. He said, they need to be clean too. I said, you're right, they do need to be clean now. Then we can do a better job cleaning. But at the same time, I think that some of the material that's on the walls, no matter how you wash it, it's still not going to look as nice as our bathrooms here at Central Office. They're not going to look that nice. We have ceramic walls, I guess. I never look at the walls when I go in there. But that's all I'm asking, that we take a look at it. And not only that, at Shady Grove, about 3 years ago, I went down, I discussed that some work needed to be done in the kitchen area. I want to thank Stephen and Dr. Coker and the board. Got that done. Everything was done. It is sufficient. It looks really good. There's one thing I asked, and that was a little 2-burner stove to be replaced because it is atrocious. After 3 years, and I found out that we got that kind of money in our school nutrition fund. We got additional money through ESSER. That 2-burner stove is still in that school. And with this, an additional amount of money, there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse to say because of COVID, we just couldn't get that piece of equipment. COVID is over, and I have not heard anything from anyone. I shouldn't have to keep calling them. Somebody should have reported back to me and said, this is where we are on this. And having said that, that's just an addition. But on those bathrooms, I like I asked Mr. Grimes, Dabo Graves, I'm sorry, if he would go down there with me. He knows a lot about stuff like that. And I rely a lot on his opinion as well. Not saying I don't with you, Stephen, but I'd like to go back and just take another look again. See what you think.
Reverend McCoy, how many bathrooms we looking at? All of them?
No, sir, no. It's 2.5. It's about three. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and I think that it would be really good if Mr. Leonard and Stephen also met with y'all down there, just to see what kind of money you're looking at, because I'm assuming you'd be wanting M&O to try to repair or fix whatever's there that needs to be repaired or fixed.
And I don't want to put a strain on M&O.
Sure.
You know,
I think it needs to come out of M&O because it's repaired upkeep.
If it's not a complete regut,
Yeah.
No. Oh, no.
it's not a regut.
No.
It's because
Oh, no.
fixtures are going to stay.
Yes.
All of that, it will stay. It's just kind of an upgrade or to just bring it back in line with what our expectations
Our
might be.
expectation. And we can discuss that.
So I think that y'all could get with them and take care of that.
Sounds good.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you want to set up the date with Stephen and
Todd.
all the other people that want to go with us, we'll put our masks on and go on down.
You know, I think Harold brings a good point up too, and I understand where Harold's coming from. You know, our whole goal as a board is to have good quality facilities for our students, bathrooms in particular. But, you know.
Yeah, I fussed at the bathrooms at Ouachita Stadium. I've griped about those for years.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
And I guess my whole point is.
Hicks like them though.
Who does
Oh,
Hicks?
Lord, no.
I guess my whole point is that, you know, we have a substantial M&O account, okay? And I think we need to use and utilize that money prudently and make sure that our properties are properly maintained. You know, and you've got as a homeowner, you've got to put a certain amount of money in your place every year to maintain it, whether it's painting or yard work, whatever it has to keep the place up. We got to do that to the system. But at the same time, I think we have to have some specific guidelines with Mr. Hemphill, working with Mr. Geis and Mr. Leonard to kind of make sure we're treating every facility the same as far as upgrades. So, you know, Harold brings up his issues and Davo's got issues at Ouachita High School with the bathrooms at the stadium, then we're consistent in applying the M&O money is what my issue.
Well, and what we have to also, we have to be consistent east side, west side, because west side, we can't charge these same renovations on the west side to west side sales tax and then on the east side to
That's my
M&O.
point.
That's true.
So
We got to
costs
be
that are
proportionate.
considered construction on
Right.
one side of the river have to be construction on the other side of the river. Same with M&O. If we're going to use M&O on one side of the river for the one type of project, we have to use M&O on the other side of the
I'm all
river
for it.
for the
I
same
agree
type of
100%.
project.
I think the whole issue though is new facilities being built, upgraded versus maintenance upgrades, okay, to existing facilities.
Right.
I think that's a distinguishing factor.
Right, so if we're, like Dr. Coker said, if we're gutting the restrooms, at whatever school, that's a construction issue, whereas if we're maintaining the restrooms, that's another issue. So we've just got to be consistent.
Well, we're talking about maintaining. Let me just say this. I shared this with Dr. Coker earlier today. My mother and father had 10 children. There were times when one child needed a pair of shoes, but the other child didn't need the pair of shoes. So because the other child said, well, you bought Harold a pair of shoes, I want a pair of shoes too. My mother had to also say and be prudent enough to say, no, but you don't need a pair of shoes. I think it ought to be based on need, not based on, well, let's just be equitable. Sometimes we have to use parity. That should be the narrative. I mean, I don't think that is prudent to say, well, we did it for this one, let's do it for that one, because that one may not need it. I think it should be based on need. If one school has nice bathrooms, and other schools' bathrooms are falling down, but we say just to be fair. I mean, when we start talking about fairness,
I'm talking about being consistent, Mr. McCoy.
well,
where the
but
funding
consistency and fairness and equity are three different things.
I think the point you brought up here about being need is right on target, and I think that's why we need Mr. Hemphill, Mr. Leonard, and Mr. Geis involved in the decision-making process to make sure that we are doing a maintenance upgrade
Assessment?
instead of a rebuild, you know, and
Oh,
let them
okay.
kind of be the one to take the lead.
Well, I agree. That's what I suggested, that we get with several people, go take a look, because some people, I may see something that someone else doesn't see, or they may see something that I don't see. But, you know.
Reverend McCoy, since you and I went down there last Thursday, Mr. Hemphill and I have had a conversation, and he is looking in and going to go down and check that out, including the floor issues that we saw in the classrooms too. in the multipurpose room. So we've already started that.
Yeah,
We
thank
can
y'all.
schedule and,
Thank y'all
and
for
make
that.
sure we get a time when we're all down there together. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I appreciate that because
Right.
that's been coming up for 3 years or longer than that. And finally, we get a chance to address that.
All
I
right.
apologize, but everybody always runs to Stephen, and I keep forgetting that's no longer.
All right, appreciate it, guys. We'll take this up another day. Finance Committee report, Mr. Guys.
Thank you, Mr. Como, Board. The Finance Committee met on May 16th. You have a copy of that agenda before you. We received the finance report and an ESSER update from Mr. Miller. The main action we had discussion on and considered was the architectural fees that we're paying to the architects at new construction versus renovation and whatnot. And so after a lengthy discussion, the committee voted unanimously to recommend to the full board the adoption of the State of Louisiana Facility Planning and Control Schedule of representative fees for architects and engineers. It is attached. It is actually the next agenda item that you will consider today that Mr. Manley will bring forward. We also had, very briefly, a discussion on the salary study update that we have started. We got a preliminary report back on that, and hopefully at our July meeting, we'll bring that to the Finance Committee. And then Mr. Hemphill provided a roofing update. Our next Finance Committee meeting is July the 18th. Just a couple of notes as far as the committee is concerned. With me coming off the Finance Committee as chairman, Mr. Como has made some appointments. Mr. Jason Thompson, our personnel director, will become the chairperson of finance. Mr. Curtis Pate, Mr. Charles Wright, Mr. Brent May, principals at Ouachita High School and West Ridge Middle School, respectively, will be joining the Finance Committee, filling some openings that were occurred. Last sheet there are the meeting dates for the Finance Committee meeting Finance Committee for 23-24. You can see them there. So unless there's any questions, that's my report. And again, the main item of discussion we discussed were architectural fees, and Mr. Manley will have that as the next agenda item in today's meeting.
Have a motion to accept? Second?
Mhm.
All in favor,
Second.
yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposition? There is none. Mr. Manley, you've been announced. Consideration and approval of the Finance Committee recommendations for architectural fees.
Thank you, Mr. Como. I appreciate it. And I'll make this kind of brief. Todd's already indicated that I brought before the board a couple of meetings ago, maybe the last meeting, about us taking another look at architect fees. I felt like it was something we need to look at seriously to make sure that, we're treating taxpayers fairly as what we pay architects and consultant fees. And primarily due to the East Side bond money that we had and my observation of the kind of money we're spending on that particular area. So Regina was gracious enough to look and come up with this schedule of representative fees that everybody should have a copy of. Everybody got a copy of this? And our current fee schedule is also available there. And as you can tell, our new construction, our fee schedule is up to not to exceed 8%. That's on new construction. On renovation projects, it's up to not to exceed 6%. It's not based on the total amount of the project spent. And I think this new sliding scale that we're looking at adopting now that the Finance Committee has already approved addresses that. And I think it addresses appropriately to make sure that if you look at that schedule of representative fees there, you look at the first $10,000 spent, our fee schedule is 13%, the architect fees. Of course, naturally, if they're going to do a project, it's more upfront initial cost for the architect to do a small project than it is a larger project. So, and looking on down through here, and this fee schedule is per project, okay? For instance, on the east side, Sterlington Middle School, $31 million project, it would fall somewhere in between the 6.07 and the 6.44%. Okay, right now we pay 8%. Okay, on Sterlington Middle School. So it does give us a little different avenue as far as making sure that we're receiving architect fees proportionally to what the size of the project is. And also I might add that this is adopted statewide. Okay, this is kind of what architect fees statewide are being paid for. Is that right, Regina? Yes. Okay.
This is
So
done
it's not
annually,
something we
Greg?
come up with, this is the, go ahead, Tom.
Is this done annually? The,
Yes, the
Oh,
the
does it
schedule?
state
annually? I'm
issues
curious.
this
So we'll have to
fee
adopt
schedule
this, or
annually.
each year we'll have
I'm
to
sure
bring
it's
this up?
updated for, you know.
I think if you just
Cost of
adopt
living.
that we follow, behind it is the actual formula,
Right.
that we follow that formula, then each year when they issue this, then we just
I didn't
update.
know if we were going to do this each year.
I would not think so.
So I guess, to make a long story short and kind of cut to the chase on this issue, I would recommend that the board adopt the new architect fee schedule presented by and approved by the finance committee for the information that you've just received. And I think it's, accommodates what we're looking, trying to do as far as paying architect and consultant fees based on the size of the project and not just a flat amount, across the board.
Great. Mr. President,
Yeah.
right now, we're currently just paying 8% across the board.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
8% across the board. If it's a $20,000 project or $20 million project, we're paying 8% for new construction. This here would give us some flexibility. And like you said, it's statewide. This is an adopted statewide. It's not something that the Ouachita Parish School Board came up with. I think it'd be fair to the architects, fair to us, and it's something that statewide, everyone is doing. And that-
Okay.
So I would make that motion.
I got one thing to say first. When we put these jobs out for bid, all we see is a picture of what we're gonna get. Nobody looks at the spec sheet. I've asked several times for a spec sheet, never received one.
Thank you.
And what a spec sheet is everything that goes in that job, every rebar, every wire, every screw, every nut. So if we're gonna adopt this architect's gonna look at it, they're gonna say, well, I ain't getting my 6%. Instead of using 1/2-inch rods, I'm gonna use 5/8 rods. Instead of using number 10 wire, I'm gonna use number 6 wire. Instead of using 6-inch steel, I'm gonna use 8-inch steel. I mean, he gonna jack the cost up and get his money. We need to look at the spec sheet on these jobs and quit looking at the picture and see what goes in there, because they're gonna get their money one way or the other.
But can I add something to that? I have talked to the architects, or some of the architects that we use. This is actually the schedule. I actually received this schedule from Mr. Brandon. This is what is used all over the state. When we had the flat scale, they're losing money on some jobs and they're gaining money on other jobs. And a lot of times they take the smaller jobs basically at a wash or a loss, where this scale will be more fair to them across the board for all the jobs. A fair fee, whether it be a renovation,
Fair
a
to them
roof.
and us.
Right, fair to them and us, whether it be a renovation, a roof. Because what we're looking at, especially with renovations, because, you know, being in construction, there's more to a renovation than new construction, but the fees that we adopted were lower for renovations, and they're having to do more work in those jobs for a lower fee. So,
They use granite instead of marble.
so these are,
It's gonna go up.
this would just be a more fair way to
I'm gonna vote for it.
to
I'm just telling you, if we don't
determine
look at
this.
the spec sheet, they gonna make up for it.
One additional thing to that too, Mr. Manley, was I believe in the Finance Committee, we also mentioned that if we had any type of engineering without the architect, that the engineer fee would also fall in line with the scale that we have here. So we have some jobs that are going on where we don't necessarily hire architects, but we hire engineers, and there's, I mean, it's kind of, we don't know where that's coming in a lot of times. So I think this puts everyone on the same playing field on how the fees are going to be determined and what we're going to be expected to pay.
Okay.
So I would, already made a motion, I guess I'll amend my motion to include it for engineers too. So it will be, this sliding fee schedule would be applicable to architects and engineers with construction projects that Ouachita Parish School Board adopts.
Right, and that is what the minutes of the finance committee, the finance committee did approve that. It's in the finance committee report.
Right.
Right. All right, we have a motion. All in favor, yes?
We're gonna have a second, dude.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, twice. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you. I will say this about the 8% flat. It says up to 8% because I have negotiated down 1%. He hadn't paid me yet, but I did negotiate down. But we'll check on that. That's you. Okay.
Policy says up to.
Financial report. Ms. Meekers.
So this shouldn't take longer than half an hour.
Good.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
This is the finance
Save us
report
some
for the
time.
period ending April 30th, 2023. As we're nearing the end of the year, and as we are now in June, we are very much near the end of the year. Our current ending fund balance in the general fund is $38.7 million. That's 94%, 94.5% of the prior year-to-date fund balance. If you'll look up at the top of that general fund column, state revenue, we're right at 100% of where we were this time last year. We're at 108% on our property tax. We don't have sales tax in the general fund, so we have property tax, and we have seen an 8% increase in our property tax, which, as you remember, when we adopted the budget, we were very conservative in our approach. I would still consider the tax economy a little unstable. We have seen increases. We have continued to see increases over times when we thought we would see considerable declines, but I'm not going to take that for granted. We'll continue to be very conservative on the estimation of taxes in our budget. The District 1 M&O, we're ending the April 30th period with $29.6 million. That's 114%. Now, there's several reasons for that. One is the ease on M&O that we've seen through ESSER funds. I hear you, Mr. Manley.
I'm just having to chuckle. We're gonna go ahead.
Also, we are setting aside, and the best way I can explain it, ESSER funds are changing the way that we budget M&O, because we have certain long-term expenses that we're going to have to maintain, such as the one-to-one technology, the technology that the teachers have available in their classroom, which ESSER funds allowed us to get to that place. But now going forward, we have to plan to be able to maintain those things for our kids and our teachers. So the M&O is really, the instructional part of that is really where those funds are being maintained. So we are seeing a little bit of an increase in our fund balance, but there is a purpose to that. And I'm working closely with Mr. Miller as we project the budgets and we project those balances that we need to carry forward to cover the replacement of Chromebooks at the rate that we're having to replace Chromebooks and the replacement of technology in the classroom. Also, buses, we are in the process of starting to look at buses to purchase for the next year, and I believe we've already gone forward with the purchase of 10 buses.
$1 million.
Of course, they're not here yet, so they've not been paid for yet, but that also comes out of M&O. If you'll look at the next several columns are sales taxes. They're up between 4% and 6% this time of the year. It varies a little bit because the area of collection varies a little bit. Margie covered a lot with our changes in grant funds. We have child nutrition. We have our reimbursement grant funds that are together. Self-insurance and work comp risk. We are working very closely with our attorney to settle a lot of those cases that have been going on for several years. So we are seeing a little bit of an increase in cost under that insurance fund, but that is a good thing. We're getting those cases settled, getting where we need to be with that. So if you look all the way at the last 2 pages, just a reminder, this gives you the general fund and the M&O, kind of a breakdown between revenue and expenditures and a 3-year comparison just to have a little more information on those two funds of where we have been, where we are now compared to the last 2 years.
Any questions?
I do have one more item on financial statements, or on finance. And this is really all that anybody has wanted to talk to me about for the last couple weeks. So we did release our sales tax distribution checks today. We had announced that we would release them Thursday on the 15th, but my people came through. We went through, didn't have any major issues. They told me not to expect this next year, but we were able to issue it a couple days early, so we did release those today. They've already been sent out to the schools. The instructional, which is our certified staff, it increased a little bit. This year's distribution is $6,525. Our 11 and 12 month support staff is $2,015. Our 9 and 10 month support is $1,210. And I apologize, I did not print out the amounts from last year, but all of those were an increase from the prior year.
They were increased though, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion to accept this report.
Also move that we accept the financial report.
And a second as well. Any other questions? All in favor? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Likewise, and there are none. Thank you. All right. Agenda. Official journal proposal, 23-24 school year. Mr. Wayland McCormick.
Board members, you have in front of you the 3 responses. This is the publication selection that we use throughout the year to do all of the information that we provide to the public and are required to provide, as well as the bidding opportunities. You'll see those 3 sheets in front of you. The lowest responsive bidder for that met the qualifications would be Ouachita Citizen, that we're asking for your approval today. Yes, sir.
I see the Free Press is the lowest bidder, but they're not responsible.
Yes, sir. You'll see on their sheet that's provided for you, they did not provide the information. They did not give us their circulation and the amount of coverage that their publication provides. Those 2 blanks were left, or those 2 questions were left blank.
So it says circulation cycle. That's not what you're looking for?
Correct. We need to know the number that their paper is being able to provide. And as far as y'all's consideration, to get the most coverage, the most information out to the largest percentage of the population, and they did not give us those figures.
Question, how many reporters do the Citizen have now?
I would not know.
She's sitting out there.
Citizen, how many reporters y'all have? It's 1.
One?
You know.
See, our school system in them a little more, you know, I know they come once a week.
I think Mr. Hannah just said that they have 3.
Oh, we got 3? Good. We ought to get 1 a week, huh?
Whatever you want to pay for. Any other comment?
Yes, sir. You know, I mentioned to several of you all that when we were discussing some stuff about, especially about prayer, there are a lot of people that I represent didn't know anything about it. Now, it was on the front page of the Ouachita Citizen. And my wife and I, we saw it because I shop at Super One in West Monroe. But I didn't see it anywhere else. The major circulation among the people that I represent is not the News Star nor the Ouachita Citizen. It is the Free Press. I know the Free Press is minority owned, and I mentioned that it would be within our legal ramifications to have a supplemental circulation, not the main circulation, but so that every person regardless of their locale, would have at least the ability to know more about what's transpiring in our school district. And we're not talking about a lot of money. We're just talking about an opportunity to have a circulation in more than one segment of the community. And so that's why I suggest as well having a supplemental circulation.
I believe in the example you gave, Mr. McCoy, is there's a difference between reporting and being what we must provide to the public as far as the bid notices and the public notices. That's all that y'all are considering today. Each one of these organizations would have the freedom to report on any of the avenues that you've discussed. That would not stop them. So in other words, we didn't pursue Ouachita Citizen to do that report on the prayer. They chose that on their own. Free Press would also have that opportunity to do that as well. Does that make sense?
It does, but I don't think I was really talking about just reporting. I was also talking about a circulation in terms of having individuals as the official journals.
Gotcha.
Right.
That's a decision for y'all.
Yes.
And looking at the sheets, it's obvious to me that Ouachita Citizen is probably number one, has the largest circulation in the parish, and also looks like the best rate going forward. And I personally haven't had any issues with Ouachita Citizen. I know they could probably, as Mr. Hicks has alluded to, maybe dedicate a little more time to our school system reporting. Hopefully they'll do that, but I'll make a motion that we continue to use the Ouachita Citizen as our official record.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed likewise? And we have none. Thank you, Mr. McCormick. Construction, Mr. Hemphill.
If you look at your handout, we'll briefly go through all this on our construction. It's going to be a busy summer. It's already busy. So with TBA, West Ouachita, just talked with Mr. Farrah. I think the graphics were waiting on the wall, but he showed me a picture. Those graphics are on the wall, and it looks beautiful. So, Highland Roofing, it's completed. We are heavy on working on the canopies at 3 different schools. They were waiting on the insulation material to come in. It's here, so they have all the material on site for these jobs. And they're putting roofing panels on. They're working, gonna be done with those by school start. Security upgrades, they're working on doing the demo on all the schools. It's getting the man trap, so we're working through that through the summer to get those finished by start of school. And then our restroom upgrades at 3 of our schools, they're completely demoed, and we're putting them back together. Hopefully have all that back together before school starts. Architect Alliance, working on Ouachita High School, baseball concession building, got the slab poured. They've doing work on the restroom. If you look through your sheet, you'll see a lot of pictures that they provided for a lot of the updates. And you'll see on the altercations on the office area and the parking lot, we'll reporting on those bids, but we have started those jobs. Moving on to, you'll see all those pictures.
Okay. Okay.
Start at the middle school. The last 2 updates that I have, last meeting was Junior 7th. They still moving forward, putting the last bit of the roofing on the classroom area. And that will put the building in the dry. And they said that building will become an ant bed. It will be everybody working on top of each other, so.
We're still shooting at the end of the year, having it completed, Mr. Hemphill. Is that what Barron is saying?
Well, under that, the superintendent said we'll look at September or October to get a realistic time for this project to be completed.
September, October?
we'll look at September, October to get a realistic.
Oh, okay. I was misunderstanding. I thought, man, you was
We're
finna
not-
get me
we're
all
not moving
excited.
up. We're not moving up.
You
several
reached that
months.
September, October, I said, man, we done moved on.
We asked at the last
I
meeting.
figured that ant bed activity might have done
They
something.
honestly said September, October, we can give you a better answer.
Okay,
That's
great.
what they said. So,
We're gonna be in touch with Dr. Coker, even his retirement time. Look at him smiling down there when we finally put that in and get in before.
I'm gonna be at the ribbon cutting, I can assure you.
You're gonna be invited at the ribbon cut.
Lasme Associates, I think the only thing we had was Western Rail parking lot. We're done with those. Land 3 Architect, we have concrete on the ground at Richwood High School for the multipurpose. I talked with a contractor this morning. They're gonna start erecting the steel Tuesday, and they'll get the main frame up, and then they'll have the guys come in and start putting the center block walls up. And I think it's, with good weather, they're gonna be moving forward really fast. Okay.
Okay, what about the Richwood Middle School? Where are we with that?
I got a set of plans that me and Ms. Brown looked at, and we signed off on them, and I'll get you to look at them, but Cedric has moved forward on that project, so he's getting all that finalized and gonna get it all ready for bid. He did not give me a date, but he has kept moving forward on that.
What about July? Did he say we could have it ready for July, the bid for July?
I don't see why we can't have it ready for July, because I mean,
And I know that, I'll mention it to you, but there were some other things that we needed to do at Robinson. I think parking lot, some drainage issues.
yes, sir, you still have that on your east side bond to
Right.
look at.
When are we gonna start moving?
Well, we was trying to get done with this pavilion and get all of that foundation and that drainage system put in, and then we can look at moving on out the playground to get the other drainage put in, and then the parking lot also.
Okay, so, I know the pavilion's been up over at Robinson for a minute now, not the pavilion, but
Right.
the structure, but that's it. And it's just been sitting there.
Yeah, they were waiting on the insulation material to come in to start putting all the metal on the roof, but it's all in now, so they gonna be, it'll all be done before school starts on all of it.
Stephen, I see you said that Highland's completed and Bowley's completed. What is the status on leaks? Did
Status on what?
leaks, did Highland leak yesterday, or I know,
Can you excuse me for?
yeah, Sandy is on vacation, I think. It's all right. I didn't know if,
We have addressed the leaks at Highland, and it's right there where that hallway joins the foyer area, and we have addressed that. And we got a good rain yesterday and today, so Miss Mercer hasn't called me with any leaks, so hopefully.
okay. What about Bowley?
I mean, that's just the ongoing process. I haven't heard from Josh Brazier. I did email him, and the last email that Sandy sent me, I sent it straight to Josh Brazier. So
Okay, I know
we had roofers on site the next day, so.
some of the lighting fixtures that got water in them haven't been changed yet. I told them not to change them until we made sure the leaks had stopped, because you just keep on doing it over and over if you do that.
PBA, this is something we've been fighting since
I know.
it's been built. So where does that stand for warranty purposes?
Right.
That end of 12 months.
Just the aggravation is more of a concern than the warranty to be.
Stephen, any update on the lift for West Monroe High School football stadium?
We've got a PO cut for the lift. It's being ordered, take about 6 weeks to get it in.
Fire marshal approved?
They did approve it. We did get approval through the fire marshal. Be a concrete pad poured for that, and some handicap ramp installed for it.
Very good.
At some point this summer, I'd like to see us get the pad poured for Bowley's playground area. The goals for that.
What fund is gonna fund that on
He'll pay for it.
West Side sales tax.
Thank you. All right. Evaluation bids.
All right, Board, the first two, I'm reporting to you only. Y'all gave permission to grant to the lowest responsive bidder. The Ouachita High School parking lot project was granted to Triad Maintenance. The Ouachita High School admin remodel was given to Vista Construction with the opening of those bids after your meeting last month.
Both of them come under budget too.
Yes, sir.
Both of them way under budget.
Yes, sir. So, no, I'm sorry, not you. You're talking about the Jack Hayes and Drew. This is Ouachita
No, I'm
High
talking about
School.
Ouachita overlay and remodeling, both come under budget.
No, sir. No, sir. The budget for the parking lot at Ouachita High School was $350,000, and the lowest responsive was $425,000. These were not the ones you attended yesterday. Okay. And then Vista Construction was the lowest at $590,000, and that budget was $500,000. So those I am just reporting to you for what y'all granted me to do last month. All right, so we're down to 3823, the Jack Hayes parking lot. This one was opened yesterday. You see there the lowest responsive bidder was Amethyst at $355,000, and that did come under budget. So we are asking the lowest responsive bidder on that, Mr. Coleman.
All right, we have a motion to accept this bid.
I have a motion to accept the bid.
And a second. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Any
Next, we
opposition?
have Drew Parkin.
None?
Drew Parkin, the lowest responsive bidder, was also Amethyst, which $104,000 under budget. Budget was $130,000, and asking for you to grant the lowest responsive bidder in this project.
Asking for a motion for this item?
Yes, I'll move.
Okay, second. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Any opposition? There is none.
All right, next, we're gonna swap our thought patterns. This one is the sale of old buses and equipment that we have. So this will be awarded to the highest bidder, not to the lowest bidder. And you will see that bid opened yesterday. J&J Merchant bid and are the highest on 15 items for a total of $13,856. And Terry Wiggins was the highest on 5 items for a total of $505. We had one other bidder, and when they were contacted, they withdrew their interest.
Motion to accept.
So moved. Yes.
Second.
And a second. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Any opposition? There is none. Thank you.
All right, and the last one is the school buses that Ms. Meekus mentioned. It's 9 buses, and 7 of them are regular activity and route buses. 2 of them are going to be sped buses. The lowest responsive bidder is Ross, and that's who we are asking for you to consider as the lowest responsive bidder.
Have a motion?
I so move.
Second.
And a second. All in favor of accepting the school bus purchases?
Yes.
Any opposition? There is none. Thank you. Permission to bid.
Yes, the only permission to bid item we have is cameras in the classroom. ESSER funded, $800 per camera is going to be the budget, and for this RFP, asking your permission to proceed.
I so move. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Any opposition? There is none. Thank you.
When, because we have a date, or Todd, we have a date when these cameras are expected to be installed in the classrooms, or what we're looking at?
No, sir, this is just the RFP process we started. We actually got some help with RFP with Lincoln. They just finished this process. So we'll start the process of getting that together and getting it out. I mean, if you elect to approve this and decide to move forward, which I hope you do, it's going to take some time to get it in all the district or across the district, but we'll begin working on that immediately. But I do not have a firm date right now
So you'll bring it back before the board, though?
to approve the RFP.
Yeah, okay. I definitely think it's something that we need, for sure.
Installation will take a while.
Yeah. That's why probably sooner the better.
Mhm.
This is classroom cameras for
Every classroom.
Each classroom.
cameras.
Now legally, I mean, have we crossed the bridge on that, Elmer, legally? I mean, do we stand on solid ground on putting a camera in each classroom? Are we okay with that, or has anybody been challenged on that?
Their
Or?
policies, guidelines, they passed the statute, as you know, last summer, and the boards.
Yeah,
We're on
we'll
legal
update our policy. If you remember last year, the legislature passed a law requiring installation of cameras in self-contained special ed
Special ed
classrooms
rooms.
at a request. So we have a policy that'll be updated. The policy will be thorough. It'll follow law. Many districts around the state have done or in the process of doing this. And it's not going to be a situation where just anybody walk in and see a camera. It'll only be a very select number of people that will have access to that video. Just to let you know, I visited with Sheriff Russell and his leadership team Friday morning in his office on several things. This is one thing, and he is 100% behind it, excited about it, said it needed to happen a long time ago, and he's excited about it, just from a safety standpoint in case there's ever a threat.
Can I just ask, I know you said classrooms, but what about in the offices where counselors are?
We haven't discussed that yet, Mr. McCoy.
You know, I know when I was working on my master's, Sherry would probably note as well, like whenever we worked with clients, there were cameras in the offices. And we would be able to record what was said or what was not said. And oftentimes, you know, it's he said, she said, but if that camera was in that counselor's office or in that main office, it would have helped me a lot. Because that's been some, he said, she said, he did, he didn't.
Certainly something we can talk about and look at. We may have to get in some legal stuff on that because of the topics that could come up in there, but we can look at it. The RFP is just going to give us an idea of the cost moving forward.
Mr. Guys, for an update, the special ed self-contained classrooms, middle schools and high schools will be completed by the end of June, and then we will begin elementary school.
Really?
From that standpoint.
Wow.
What about the flooring on another subject? Is the flooring process moving along pretty good on?
Doopey's is finishing up Claiborne Elementary. That's the first phase. Me and Wayland has sent out email to all the principals. Our original list has gotten lost. So we're starting a new list, and we're going to get real aggressive in the next year or two to spend this extra funds getting all the floors replaced.
Okay, thanks.
Stephen, could you send us a schedule of that once you get all that lined out as far as what schools will be up and coming up and when, as far as replacing the flooring?
Me or Wayland will.
Okay.
Or
well,
Bobby Jones is going to be the one that's going to be coming in.
Yeah, just whoever's responsibility it falls under, that'd be great.
Yeah.
All right, guys, our next meeting will be July 11th. And appreciate your patience today. We through this, and I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Just come up.
Unless the superintendent's got something to say.
Well, I just want to say something on behalf of our current superintendent. He still is for a few more days. He had an awesome turnout yesterday. I know that's a great testament to his career, and just want to thank Don again for not only his leadership, his friendship, his mentorship, but just the man he is. And we're going to miss him. But we got him a few more days, and we appreciate you, Don, and best of luck.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Send some money for you guys.
Motion adjourned.